Hi there. I thought that today I would record the process that I'm going to use for making this cover for an insert that will go in this folio. I have a folio that I use, and this folio I made it using Nick the Booksmith class. It holds two Traveler's Notebook size pieces, or two Traveler's Notebook size Traveler's Notebooks, if you will. And this is my January one. You saw this flip through in another video. But I wanted to also have a like an annual planner type thing. So this is the cover for the annual planner that will also go in that other the folio, so I will have everything. And eventually I probably ought to make some kind of a storage for all of these, because then I'll have a year's worth at a time. So all I've done so far is taken some Tim Holtz cardstock. That's what I'm using. When I tried to fold it, it split on me, so I used some washi. I found this is all Tim Holtz washi as well. I love this with this. This is actually what I would call the backside of the Tim Holtz, so that on the inside now it looks like this, and that will be really pretty. I have a few different things here, and I'm not quite sure which way I'm going to go with them. Because this has birds on it, I grabbed, these are two pieces that I had left over from an Edith Holden page that I used in another collage. I have Remember. This is from, these are both from actually Nick the Booksmith. I also have this quote that says, "To accomplish great things, we must not only act, but also dream, not only plan, but also believe." So I thought this was a great quote for putting in a planner. And remember, because it is going to have pages in it that are for like monthly calendar pages, so we can use those. I grabbed some cardstock. I have this really cool, it's by Friskers, and it's a corner punch, and it actually has 3 different corners. I may use that. And then of course I keep my distress inks. I live in Colorado where it's very, very dry, so I keep all my distress inks in a Ziploc bag to hopefully help keep those moist. And so I have some other things. So let's get started. I'm going to set this aside for a moment. And the first thing I want to do is kind of grungy things up a little bit. I was not into this until I started watching Nick the Booksmith and a few other people that really turned me onto this and how it really makes things pop. I don't use the black soot as much, but I do like both Vintage Photo and Walnut Stain. And I just use the same pad for everything. I don't change pads for anything. I think I'm going to grab these, and let's start with Vintage Photo. It's a little bit less, actually I want to start with these. It's got a little bit more yellow to it than the walnut, but I want to start with these because I think I'm going to end up cutting those pieces down. So I'm just going to go around these and see how that's already starting to pop. I love the grungy look, and I did choose to, instead of very carefully cutting this out, or as some people call it, fussy cutting, I chose to tear it. I thought it would look so much better that way. Give it a little bit more of a grungy look. And then we have this bird too, that I'm just going to go all the way around it. Make this look really nice and grungy. So yes, I do two kind of styles. I do kind of this more grungy vintage style, and then I do one that I would call more of a modern. It's really not shabby chic, but it is more of a modern one. I think I am going to tear around this as well, kind of keeping with that torn theme, if you will. I kind of like that look. It's a little bit tricky to do and do well, but with a little bit of practice and patience, this takes a lot of patience because paper seems to have a grain. I'm sure someone else could explain it better. But sometimes when you tear things, it'll tear just beautifully straight across. If you go the other way, it wants to be really not so straight. It wants to be more curly, and it wants to go a different direction. So I know fabric has grain, but I wonder if paper actually has a grain to it as well. I know it's more formed, but sometimes I wonder. Things I wonder about, things in my brain. So we're going to grungy this up as well. I really like this quote to go on the cover. And then this, I think I'm just going to trim this down a little bit. I don't want this quite so big. And I don't think things were cut straight on it. So I just want to cut this down a wee bit. And one of the things I learned way back when I did 4-H was when you're framing things that you want to actually leave a larger space at the bottom than on the top. So I'm kind of using that again to, there we go, to do this as well. One of the cool things I did, and you may have seen that with the other piece that I did, that I showed you, that January one, was to use the cardstock and use the corner punch to give it a really cool look. And I think I'm going to do that with this as well. I'm going to grab a piece of cardstock like this, and I'm going to cut it about like that. And then I'm going to pick a different, let's do something a little bit more simple. I want to use this corner punch. And if I remember correctly, this is really hard to punch through. So, ooh, I like that. So we're going to go ahead and punch all 4 corners. And if I do them wrong, I get that. So we're going to try cutting this again. I like that size though. So that's one of the frustrating things with these corner punches. I don't always get them to line up properly. I seem to do it really well the first try, and then after that, all bets are off. So like I did that one beautifully. And I try to get them in there right. Let's see if we got that one right. Ooh, we did. That's 2 in a row. Oh, I better not jinx this. All right, so this seems to want to kind of wiggle it until it feels like it's right. And that one is right. That seems to feel good. Let's see what happens. The last one is always a mess, and I messed it up again. Shoot. Let's try one last time, and if I just can't get this right, I may just leave that last corner. This is hard to do. I really find this to be quite the challenge to actually get everything to line up properly. And that one is good. So as you can see, I'm not perfect. That one's not lined up perfectly, but it still looks okay. I'm going to keep that one. Okay, that feels right. And I wish there was a good way that I could, you know, a lot of times you can flip them over. Oh, maybe that's what I need to be doing, is flipping these over and making sure they're lined up right. Oh, what an idea. Look at that. There we go. That is more lined up correctly. Let's see if we can turn this over very carefully. Now to punch this, because I don't think I can, well, let's try punching this through from the back side. There we go. Now, this is hard to do because, let me make sure that's lined up in there really well. That does? once I get it lined up right. There we go. There we go. I have to put some weight on that. Oh, there we go. Now it turned out really nicely. And so what I'm going to do this time, I like the walnut stain on this because the cardstock makes it a little bit darker. And the walnut stain, look at how it makes all of that, the details really pop and come out. I want a little bit more. I really love how this ends up looking. And yep, that one corner's not perfect. I'll probably put it on the bottom because our eye tends to be drawn up. Oops, oh my goodness, I'm making a mess. So I really hope I give you some hope today that really anyone can do this, because this is not going perfectly, but it is going well. And I think we're going to really like how this turns out in the end. And so let's see. That looks good. All right. Now I'm going to grab my glue. So I bought this Beacon 3-in-1 because it's a lot less expensive. And this is made by the same company that makes your Fabri-Fix and your Fabri-Tac. What I found out is this is a great glue. It's a little bit runnier. It takes a little bit longer to dry than your Fabri-Fix, but it's horrible for fabric. So don't use it on your fabric. Only use it on paper, and it works really, really well for paper. It's just horrible for fabric. I would not use it at all on fabric. So we're going to glue this on. Just a little bit. Make sure I get all the way out to the corners. Blow that off. And we're going to just put this kind of in the middle. And that gives it a beautiful vintage feel. Oh, I love that. Okay, now I'm going to clean off my little piece of parchment paper here that's got all these crumbs, if you will, on it. Dump that in the trash, and then I'm going to, that didn't come off, that's okay. Let's get this out, and I'm going to lay this flat. I think it'll be easier to work with. And let's just try laying some of this stuff out. I really, oh, what did I do with that other? It's a good thing my head is permanently attached, or I would definitely lose that. So I've given this a little bit of thought, and I sort of know where I want to go with this. I like the nest down in this corner and the bird up in that corner. I think that this should go down here with the nest, and this could go right in the middle, but I don't think that quite works. I'm going to put this off to the side and maybe up here with the bird. I think that's going to work great. So the last thing we need to do now is to glue all of this stuff down. And I'm going to glue all of it with the 3-in-1. I'm just trying to kind of use this up because I think in the future I will only buy, I only saved a couple of bucks by buying the 3-in-1 over the Fabri-Fix. And so I think I will, and it does get stringy just like the Fabri-Fix, but I think I will probably just stick with the Fabri-Fix. I am not as thrilled with this glue as I was with the other things. One of the things I know I'm going to need to grab here in a second, because doing this on the other piece, is the glue wants to come out through those corners. So I'm going to put some glue on it, and then I'm going to actually have a paper towel ready. I'm grabbing a paper towel real quick that I can blot this a little bit so that it doesn't come out through the corners. This was just a little trick that I came up with when you're working with delicate things like this that have holes in them. If you don't do that, it will tend to, let's make it right side up, it will tend to come out, and then you have a gooey mess. Now you can see, I'm going to hold this up, that the glue is not oozing out through all these little corners, and that would be bad. So next, for the layer, we're going to put this on and glue the nest. Not quite sure why I went with a bird theme, because I kind of did that with my January one as well. Not sure what I was thinking, but and I'm not particularly a big bird fan, but I went with it, and we're going to stick with it. So we're going to put our little nest down there. And then last but not least, we have our inspirational quote, which I think is going to balance all of this really nicely as well. There we go. And so we're going to put this down here, a little bit more off to this side. And there we go. I really like how this turned out. We have our remember and our bird and nest and our little quote down here, and then this beautiful, beautiful Tim Holtz paper. So, hope you will come back and see my finished journal. Have a great day, and I hope I've encouraged you to craft.